Guyana continues to pursue opportunities geared towards expanding value-added opportunities in the forestry sector. The Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment, through the Guyana Forestry Commission, has been playing a major role in this regard, pushing for the establishment of agencies that can advance the development of the sector. This week on El Dorado Shines, you will learn more about these initiatives and the systems in place to effectively manage the country's forest resources.
Our forest management stewardship, we're absolutely proud that we've gone through a number of audits, external audits, our systems, our review, our management in terms of compliance, different companies in this regard. And it's there for all to see. It's there for all to see. And this was not work done by the GFC, but this work done by a number of auditors external to the GFC. And in fact, they were commissioned by the government of Norway under our partnership. And the results and our performance is there for all to see. Not only have we been able to maintain a low rate of deforestation, but even if you look at our extraction, we're just producing about 40% or thereabout of our allowable cut per annum in this regard. And so we're even far below what we can, as it were, extract from our forests. We can do close to 1.6 million cubic meter. We're somewhere just about 400,000 cubic meter per annum. And even the management of it too will be significant. And recently I met with an international environmental body, a very reputable body. And we were having the same type of conversation along with forest management. And I invited this body, I said, you bring any experts you want, any experts from anywhere. And I'm inviting you to go to the Guyana Forestry Commission and give you access to every single file there is, and come and conduct any audit. When you call it operations audit, a systems audit, a forensic audit. I'm inviting you to do that. And pick any company. Those that might be in the news recently, or those that was in the news a long time ago. Pick any company. And I want you to audit the GFC's compliance and management as regarding that. And see where there would have been any weaknesses. Because we are comfortable, one, in the fact of openness and transparency, because if I'm going to come here to operators and talk about the need for you to invest more, to get involved in value added and to take other steps, you also have to be comfortable in the fact that the GFC operates in a very open, very transparent, and also in a very professional way and in a very supportive way. And so I've thrown out that challenge to that international grouping to so do, because there's absolutely nothing to hide. In fact, we would welcome recommendations, and that's why we reach out to experts in different organizations, and that's why we have our good friend here from Ghana too, working with us too. And we've had experts from different parts, working with the FAO, WWF, CI, ITTO, a number of organizations, a number of reputable entities, to see how it is that we can better manage and better, as it were, implement our work in this area.
The legislative policy and procedural framework is very strong and very recent. For example, we have the Forest Act and the GFC Act, which were revised a couple of years ago. And even more recent than that, we have the National Forest Policy and Forest Plan and LCDS, Low Carbon Development Strategy. We also have guidance, policy guidance from Cabinet, the Minister and the GFC Board, and also the Strategic Plan for Natural Resources.
The Guyana Forestry Commission has very effective export procedures in place. All forest produce to be exported must be verified by a GFC grading inspector, and the required documentation must be properly completed and verified prior to export. The NLUP is not prescriptive in that it does not aim to zone areas of the country for particular land uses. Rather, it aims to suggest a number of options for particular areas that can then guide decision makers and attract inward investment. The Guyana Forestry Commission's regulations are designed to discourage the exclusive exportation of logs and the promotion of more value-added activities. The Forest Products Development and Marketing Council, FPDMC, also plays an important role in this regard.
FPDMC, sometime in October 28, was given a renewed mandate. In fact, it had more or less became defunct for all practical reasons. And after interactions with the FPA, the Guyana Manufacturers and Services Association, we wanted to have an entity that is able to advance market as well as, primarily started out as the Forest Product Marketing Council originally. And so when we had the discussion, I introduced the idea that perhaps we should put in product development as an element too, of which was originally the FPMC, and I said we should add the D. And the D is a very important letter, but in this instance, it represents development of the particular products. And why did we embark, and that mandate was given when we restarted it? Because as it stands now, it is fully financed by the government through the Guyana Forestry Commission. And the emphasis on development of forest products was particularly with an eye on value added, because it was not only just about marketing our timber resources, but also we wanted much more dedicated attention to be placed on the development, and in this instance, the development of forest products along the line of having much more value added in this regard. We have one of the highest rates export levy for logs in the world. We have one of the highest rates. And why we've done that? To disincentivize the export of logs and to create much more incentives in this regard. And we will continue to examine that policy, and we will continue to engage stakeholders, and I want to challenge the FPDMC for us to look at innovative ways, whether we're dealing with the issue of access to financing, whether we look at access to technology, to look at innovative ways in which we can overcome in the short term those hurdles, even as we look to fix some of the more structural issues so that we can fully address the issues of value added.
The government and the GFC is taking every step to ensure adequate raw material supply. And in this respect, we have been continuously linking manufacturers to producers. Many times, processors will come in and say, we are not having this particular species available. And GFC will link that manufacturer with the producers of this particular species. We have also facilitated direct access to 4 state forest permissions, a total of 80,000 acres, to a manufacturing group. And the aim was that they would provide a regular supply of raw materials for value activity entities. We also facilitated access of an entire timber sales agreement to another manufacturer who has now entered into a joint venture agreement. We are currently facilitating sector requests for joint ventures, rental agreements, and in response again to a request by manufacturers, we have restricted the export of locust and crabwood logs. This particular aspect was started under the previous chairman, Mr. Clinton Williams, where foreign investors and local investors were reminded that they have to submit a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan, outlining importantly the added value activities that they want to engage in via timelines. We also emphasize that foreign investors have an added obligation to provide training to Guyanese. and they are also required to utilize a wider range of species.
The Commission has also been implementing measures in the sector which are in keeping with international best practices.
We've also established standards that are internationally accepted for all aspects of forest operations. We have, for example, a code of practice for harvesting for non-timber forest products. Training is important. We just heard about skills shortage. What have we done? With the collaboration of the International Tropical Timber Organization and other stakeholder groups like the FPA and GMSA, the government has funded a forestry training center which provides highly subsidized training for operators in the forestry sector. We also do timber grading courses on a regular basis as well as tree identification. All areas of operation, forest operation, are licensed, and there is very intense monitoring and verification of compliance in all aspects.
By 2030, flooding has been estimated to cost $150 million annually, and extreme events such as the flooding of 2005 could result in $0.8 billion in losses, affecting 320,000 people. The need to identify and develop land away from the coastal plain has been included in the Low Carbon Development Strategy as hinterland adaptation measures to be undertaken in the period 2012 to 2015. The Environmental Protection Agency and the Guyana Forestry Commission categorically state that Baishanling Incorporated and affiliated companies do not have access to 960,000 hectares of land. Rather, their legal access is to approximately 632,072 hectares. The urgent need for a national land use policy is recognized by the government of Guyana, and it is hoped that the plan could act as a catalyst to speed the finalization of this policy and the development of integrated land use planning in Guyana. Baishanling and its JV partners have exported a total of 375 containers for the period January-June 2014. This is not confined to this company, since many other large companies are also exporting logs in such quantities, in keeping with the national log export policy. Some policymakers in the sector are pushing for more entrepreneurial activity and better management skills in the value-added industry.
In my view, there has been also insufficient management know-how and professionalism. Shortage of professional and technical expertise and manpower. Insufficient use of technology. Outmoded and unproductive production methods in operations, limited ability to tap economies of scale, essentials, given particularly our small domestic market, and obviously the more critical one being high costs and availability of energy. Unless these issues are addressed, whatever we do, whatever incentives we generate, or in fact, I want to put it differently, that the incentives that we are currently generating or should be generating and putting in place should address these issues in a holistic way. Otherwise, the value-added sector will continue to remain as it is, very low and indeed unresponsive to minimize or to, for want of a better word, restrict the exploitation of logs, which is the primary source of income within the sector at the moment. Now, what that is presupposing? It is saying that we needed to generate incentives or review the incentive regimes that would support facilitation of funding and enhancements of the equity base of forest producers, particularly those that are engaged in added value industries.
The whole concept and vision of value added is absolutely not new, and it's something that we have been pursuing for a number of years in all sectors of our economy. Because if we look at the structure of our economy in Guyana, we've traditionally been a producer and exporter of primary commodities, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in our mineral resources, whether it's in our timber resources, whether it's in our fishery resources. And that in a way has made us very vulnerable on the world economy, because commodity prices shift. They plunge and sometimes they spike, but more often than not, we see levels of unpredictable movements of commodity prices. When you talk in terms of gold, if you look at the gold market situation, you wake up one day it's over 1,300, and this morning you wake up it's 1,247 per ounce. And that's the reality. And so every primary commodity that we export, we put ourselves at risk in a structural way, in a macroeconomic way, and when that filters down to you, the operator, well, notwithstanding what sector you operate in, you also become very exposed. So from a strategic and from a visionary standpoint, and if we're going to, as it were, make our economy much more resilient in the long term and much more in a position to withstand price shocks that commodities take, value added is the key to go. So it makes economic sense that we pursue value added in all areas.
We have also supported small and medium scale enterprises to process forest produce using chainsaws and portable mill technology. We have in excess of 175 portable mills now licensed, when in 2000 I don't think there were hardly any. Portable mills, if properly used, sometimes give recovery up to 65% or even higher. And use of portable mill technology on forest concessions helps to provide an economic respite to the enterprises, in that you're not transporting waste, only the finished product from the concession.
When we produce products, biggest challenge for us is markets. The biggest challenge is markets. So we want to go value added. We can produce things, but what do we do with it? So we have to make every effort to market, to research the market, to produce things that people want.
If I'm going to come here to operators and talk about the need for you to invest more, to get involved in value added and to take other steps, you also have to be comfortable in the fact that the GFC operates in a very open, very transparent, and also in a very professional way and in a very supportive way. So I've thrown out that challenge to that international grouping to so do, because there's absolutely nothing to hide. In fact, we would welcome recommendations, and that's why we reach out to experts in different organizations, and that's why we have our good friend here from Ghana too, working with us too. And we've had experts from different parts, working with the FAO, WWF, CI, ITTO, a number of organizations, a number of reputable entities, to see how it is that we can better manage and better, as it were, implement our work in this area.
Processing of applications for public lands begins at regional offices. Clients are usually referred to the relevant regional office for initial communication and transactions concerning application within that particular region. The Guyana Forestry Commission maintains that there is no circumventing of Guyana's logging laws by Baishan Lin or any other forestry-based company. The Commission has very robust and functional systems, procedures and guidelines which all forest sector companies are audited against. Appropriate action is taken for any breaches. The primary objective of the National Land Use Plan is to provide a strategic framework to guide land development in Guyana. As such, the plan is built upon a number of national policies and strategies that have a direct relevance for land use and land management. A broad regime of incentives is provided to investors in the sector whose primary focus is adding value to forest resources.
Whilst it may not be covering every aspect that needs to be covered or addressed, it is also a very comprehensive but also very attractive regime in terms of supporting value added within the forestry sector. Many forest operators are unaware, take for example, of the incentives there are. And I looked at the numbers for this year alone. There have only been 14 takers in terms of who have applied for, take for instance, duty-free concessions, whether for equipment in particular. There have been only 14 for 2000, for this year alone. For 40 for 2014. But when you look at the structure of those, you find that there's not much bias in the area of value added, but a lot of it in terms of primary timber production. And I'm not sure whether it's a case where persons are unaware of these incentives, or perhaps they need to be much more educated, much more aware, and we do hope an exercise such as this today will point individuals of those incentives. Because from time to time you see the commentary, oh, there are no incentives for small and medium scale forestry operators to get involved in value added. When in fact there is an attractive incentive regime, when in fact there are opportunities for this regime, as it were, to cover all elements of value added. So, in summary, we have taken concrete steps and significant steps to create that enabling environment. And that enabling environment is one in which operators will have to address.
In pressing for an increase in value-added production, authorities are not unaware of the challenges facing operators.
We know in an operation such as yours, particularly in value-added operation, 60% of your operational costs, 60% of your operational costs is spent on energy. And so we can talk from here to the top of Mount Roraima about value added in any area of our economy. But unless and until we definitively address the matter of energy, we will be having a good talk, and only. And that is a reality that we have to confront as a nation. And you know it, you operate in it, you know the sector. But sometimes when you hear the comments made, because the same individuals who talk about much more needs to be done for value added are the same individuals who at another level are in fact holding the key to value added taking off in our country, and that is energy. And it's not any form of energy. We cannot use in fossil fuel having energy per kilowatt hour 31, 32, 33, 34 US cents. When you look at other producers who we have to compete with for forestry producers, they're producing at 12, 13, some at 9 US cents. And they're doing it because they're using renewable, particularly hydro.
Notwithstanding such challenges, the records have shown an increase in the value of value-added products.
We've seen an increase over the last 6 years, a consistent increase in the value of exports of value-added products in different categories. And at the same period, we've seen also a decrease in the value of exports, take for instance of log. In 2010, just before 2010, we were looking at numbers annually of 17 million US thereabout. Now we've seen that falling off to below 30 million US. Whilst at the same time, we've seen value-added products have been increasing, coming from in the vicinity of 13, 14 to in excess of 90 million US per annum. That points to a trend It is not the ideal situation, but it points to a trend, and it also points to a changing mindset. And we want that mindset to continue to change as we develop the enabling environment. And let's hope in the near future we're able to deal with a critical hurdle and a critical constraint, and that is the issue of energy.
Check us out on the internet for this and every episode of El Dorado Shines. Just go to YouTube, search for El Dorado Shines, and start watching. Or like us on Facebook and receive instant updates.
As every other income earner, persons engaged in gold and diamond mining must honor their tax obligations. Miners who employ operators, cooks, divers, and other tributers, as they are commonly known, are required to deduct 10% of the 30% income tax from the earnings of tributars and remit same to the GRA. Tributars are required to pay the 20% balance of taxes to the GRA on or before April 30 of each year where applicable. For more information, call 227-6060 extensions 1200 to 1204.
To learn more about the new litter prevention regulations, visit the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment's website at www.nre.gov.gy and click on the link Pick It Up Guyana. You've been watching El Dorado Shines. Do join us again next week for another program. Until then, do remember that we all have a role to play in protecting the environment.